All right, everyone, welcome back to Praetor Magic. My name is DM Cross, and this is Reflections of the Council. I am joined, as always, as we do every Monday, by my buddy over here, Phyrexian Walker. Hey, Phyrexian, how's
Howdy.
how's how's your game going?
Eh, it's going okay, I guess.
Yeah, all right. It was not going okay for the entire pre-show where you were sitting complaining, because I even put in the chat that I was so tempted to put your audio through just so that you could entertain everybody by how upset you were.
Well, I just resolved a Crux of Fate into a Liliana Dreadhorde general
Uh,
that if someone doesn't kill this turn, I'm pretty sure I just ult it next turn. They
mm,
don't know that though. I have an Evolution Sage hiding in hand, so I'm gonna drop the Evolution Sage, Evolving Wilds, sack it
mm.
to get the second land, and then ult it on the -9. And then that just kind of wins the game. Now that
Considering,
again is
yeah.
as long as nobody realizes and manages to kill it. And there are 3 players all to go and untap.
So we're real good professionals here, playing games while we're doing our podcast.
Hey,
That
you know what? We're not full fledged in the podcast yet. And like I
ah,
said, either I get to do this next turn or I just concede and say, "Hey, good game, guys. I gotta go."
what do you mean
That's
we're
what'll
not
happen.
we're not a full fledged podcast? We're at 45 episodes right now.
Well, no, I'm saying like we aren't full fledged into this podcast, like into the podcast we are currently doing, the episode we're currently
Mm,
doing. We're just kind of
speaking speaking
shooting
of which,
the crap and whatnot.
we are still, however, all our shooting the crap is now sponsored by our friends over at inkgaming.com. Make sure you're using the link down below the video for that's our affiliate link to get to Ink Gaming, and make sure you're using our Praetor10 coupon code PRAETOR10 to make sure you're getting 10% off your purchase. You can get your custom dice bags, playmats, anything you could possibly want. You can get your Praetor Magic custom playmat. That'd be pretty cool. Or mousepad. Also pretty cool if you're an online gamer like most of us are, as again, Phyrexian's playing a game while we stream. So Phyrexian, aside from playing MTGO, what are we doing?
We are building a deck, I believe, today
Are we?
around a particular legendary artifact.
Swerve, we're actually doing something completely different.
Whoa, oh, geez. Then I am desperately unprepared if that's the case.
No, we're not doing that. That although that would be hilarious. Um, we are going to be building a deck around a particular legendary artifact. We talked about this one. I think we briefly mentioned it on a couple of the episodes that we've had recently, where we were going to do this. Is normally we pick a new commander, a new legendary creature to build around. We've done this with Urza, Yawgmoth, and Chulane, and I think one other that I cannot remember. But we're going to do something a little bit different this time. The commander is not going to be the focus, even though we know which commander we're going to use. We're building the deck to try to emphasize a different new card that is from Throne of Eldraine, however. So the card that we're trying to emphasize in this particular one is Embercleave. And for those of you who don't know what that is one of the new legendary artifact equipments from, well, they're not all equipments, but it's one of the new legendary artifacts. It's the red one. It's a cost 4 red. It's a mythic. It has flash. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each attacking creature you control, so you could flash it in during combat for potentially just red if you have 4 creatures attacking. When it enters the battlefield, you can attach it to target creature you control. So, for instance, if you're a Voltron deck, you can just put it right on your commander. And then equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has double strike and trample. And it does have a regular equip cost of 3, so that once it's out, if it obviously something kills whatever it is, you can equip it. So yeah, so we thought this would be a cool idea because so many of the legendary artifacts from Eldraine were interesting. We talked about them through the set reviews. Obviously, the Great Henge we were super high on, and I think you could easily build a deck around quote unquote the Great Henge. Like that
Oh
ability is just
yeah,
really
easily.
strong.
Yeah, that ability is so strong it would not be hard to build a deck around it.
Yeah, I kind of shudder to think about like building a deck around that one because I think that one's so strong that it's KOS kill on sight, right? Like Patrick played it on Friday in his Galta deck, in I think the second game, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, "Oh man, we got to find a way to get rid of that." I don't think we did, and he very nearly won that game. which you can see soon on youtube.com/Praetor Magic starting tomorrow. Um, but yeah, so like that one, like for as good value as it is, I think it's one of those things where it's like people are just going to go after you. So, or go after it, I should say. Like that shouldn't stick around. Embercleave's a little bit different. If you are running a Voltron deck, I could see people trying to target it, but if you're running a Voltron deck and your commander is obviously the thing you're trying to suit up, I think people are going to be more likely to kill your commander to set you back, because it takes obviously more mana for the commander and stuff like that. So you might get to keep your Embercleave around a little bit easier. And then red has artifact recursion and stuff. I mean, artifacts in general have their own artifact recursion. So as long as it doesn't get exiled, I think you're pretty good to go. So I will admit, Phyrexian did most of the heavy lifting on this one. I'm kind of just here for ideas and to run my mouth because my kids had camping this weekend, so I had almost no perk time. So go ahead. What do you want to talk about first?
Well, did you talk about the commander that we're pairing with Embercleave and why we're pairing that particular commander with Embercleave?
No, I didn't.
Well, that had a lot to do with you and your friends over at EDH Rec. So if you wanted to start with that story, I feel like that would be a good place to start.
Did it start with EDH Rec? Well, either way, I could talk about the commander. We did choose Varchild, Betrayer of... I never say this right, but Keldor, because I think the J is silent. Hey, DB Cross. This is one of the newer commanders from last year's set. Maybe not newer anymore, but it's rare. It's a human knight, 2 and a red. When it deals combat damage to a player, that player creates that many 1/1 red survivor creature tokens. So hitting people gives them tokens. Survivors your opponent's control can't block, and they can't attack you or a planeswalker you control. So they're not chump blockers, and they can't hit you back. When Varchild leaves the battlefield, gain control of all survivors, and it's a 3/3 to start. So probably one of the biggest reasons why we chose this one is because the abilities pair really well together. So giving Varchild evasion is really important because it has to hit the player in order to give the survivors out. Pumping it up, the +1/+1 doesn't seem like a lot, but then when you realize the double strike, so you're essentially adding 5, toughness, because now it's a 4/4 for double strike. So, or not toughness, power. So just in general, and then like you're inspiring that kind of like combat because you're giving people all these tokens that it's probably going to hit because of the survivors and stuff like that. And then if somebody does kill Varchild, because obviously they don't want you to keep hitting them in the face with this evasive big commander, then you just get all these tokens back, and then you can keep attacking people that way. So it kind of transitions into a token deck. It's a Voltron deck that transitions into a token deck while like inspires other people to like create a little bit of chaos themselves. So it kind of like does triple work, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when Varchild was previewed, I started posting on Twitter. I started like a thread of like, oh, look at these abilities, and it was like Aether Flash, which is the enchantment when a creature enters the battlefield, deal 2 damage to it, and then what is it, Repercussions, which is a red enchantment where whenever damage would be dealt to a creature, deal that damage to it's the creature's owner as well. So it's like, hey, I'm gonna hit you for 3, and here's your 3/1/1s. Up, they take 2 damage each, which means you take 6 damage. Have a nice day. And it turned into like this big like pain and punishment deck. I put Zozu the Punisher in there and stuff like that. So I was very evil. But we're gonna do something a little different. So
Yeah.
why do you, aside from obviously like the synergies, but why do you like Varchild for this deck?
I mean, it wasn't a thing that you talked about where you basically take a knight and an equipment and put them together, almost like
Oh,
the
that's what.
signature spell thing for Oathbreaker.
Never mind. I remember what you're talking about. So
There you go.
I'm a little slow on the uptake. Very tired. So what he is talking about is the EDH Rec crew. We had a joke once upon a time. I think we were talking about Oathbreaker, and we started making this joke about we could start a format called Joust, where your commander had to be a knight, not a legendary knight, just had to be a knight creature. It would still be, I believe, if I remember the rules correctly, it would still be 100 card format singleton, and instead of a signature spell like Oathbreaker does, you would have to have an equipment. And you could only cast the equipment when your commander was on the field, and you could only equip the equipment to your commander. So like you couldn't put it on any, like you can't put Embercleave, if this is the example we're going to use, onto one of the survivor tokens later on. It can only go on Varchild. So it's Varchild's, signature equipment. It's their signature weapon, something like that.
Yeah.
So, and
which is why I picked Varchild, because Varchild's a human knight. Varchild's
Yeah.
legendary, and it works really well with Embercleave. So
this is possibly the first video ever of the Joust format, is what we called it, because it's knights and equipment. So Embercleave is essentially the lance to our Varchild.
All right, so talking about some cards, right? They're just good in Varchild. I like the new card Dockside Extortionist just a lot for mono red. It does so much for ramping in mono red, because people are going to be playing these signets. People are going to be playing these, the Chromatic Lanterns, Coalition Relics. People are going to be playing Arcane Signet now. They're going to be playing other artifacts and enchantments too. So you're going to get a lot of treasure off Dockside Extortionist usually when you play it. So it's just a good little rampy option, especially since Embercleave costs 6 unless you're, reducing it by attacking with more creatures, which Varchild isn't really good at doing at first. It'll help you kind of power it out faster.
Yeah, like the longer the game goes on, and obviously Varchild probably eats it at least once as you start to hit somebody with it, especially with Embercleave, where again they can't really block easily against it. People are going to want to remove it, which means you're going to get your survivors, which then means you're easier to cast your Embercleave again. So the rules of quote unquote Joust being that it would go back to the command zone, similar to how a signature spell would work. Dockside Extortionist is one of the new cards from Commander 19. It costs 1 red. It's a rare. It's a Goblin Pirate. When it enters the battlefield, you create X treasure tokens, where X is a number of artifacts and enchantments your opponents control, and it's a 1/2. So it's a total cost. So if one person has 5 and the other person has 2, you're getting 7 treasures. And then, of course, if there's a third person, but blah, blah, blah. But that's the basic concept. I agree really well with this pick. I think this is going to wind up being one of those, like, oh, you're playing red without green or black, then yeah, you have to have Extortionist, because just treasure tokens. I think it might even become like the Smothering Tithe of mono red.
I don't know that's that good, but it is pretty good.
I think it's the best thing red has. I don't think it's as good as Smothering Tithe. I just don't think red has anything that's comparable.
Yeah. Okay, so next card. I mean, if you're including Varchild, you have to include Varchild's War Riders. And Varchild's War Riders is for 1 and a red. It has Trample, Rampage, 1, and then a cumulative upkeep of put a survivor token into play under target opponent's control. Treat this token as a 1/1 red creature. But of course, survivors your opponent's control can't block and can attack if you have Varchild on the field. So, and then you get those back if Varchild leaves the field. So this really just becomes value for your deck if you're playing Varchild as your commander.
So they can't attack you. Survivors can attack, but they can't attack you.
Oh yeah, they can't attack you. But you don't care if they attack your opponents.
Oh yeah,
you want your opponents to die. So
yeah, I just want to make sure that distinction's very clear, is because these things can be hit with other people and whatnot. So, or you can hit other people with these survivors. Just not me. Just not me. Yeah. And then, of course,
block other people's things with them.
No, they can't block.
Right? No, they can't block at all.
No, they can't block. Survivors can't block anything, much like cowards can't block warriors. I do like that this is a cumulative upkeep, so this is kind of like an OG. What's the card I'm thinking of? Assemble the Legion, but like in reverse. And you can kind of pick it's an opponent each time, not each opponent. So like you can give one person some, and then if they start getting like too strong, or if they start abusing them, like if they're an aristocrats deck or something, you could just not give them any and give somebody else some. Like if you have a token deck against the aristocrat deck, and hey, here, swarm that guy.
So yeah, I like this one. Another auto include for me is Rampaging Ferocidon.
Oh, well, So Rampaging Frostodon is 2 in a red. Dinosaur from Ixalan. It's a rare. It's a 3/3 menace. Players can't gain life. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, rampaging. Oh, okay. Rampaging Frostodon deals 1 damage to that creature's controller. I almost goofed on this and was like, but won't that hurt us? But it's
No,
not, because we're
it
creating them
just
under.
hurts your opponents even more.
Yep. Okay,
Hey,
and then
we're getting there, DP Kraus. But yes, both of those cards I think also go in the deck. I think Valduck goes in the deck because you're just going to be playing a lot of other enchantments or artifacts to equip anyway, based on Varchild. So Valduck is very strong. So we can go ahead and look at him next.
Valduck. Is it
Just for the
Valduck or
fun.
Valduke?
I say Valduck, but maybe it's Valduke.
Quack.
Doesn't matter. Does it really matter?
Quack.
But yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. Valduck's not gonna work as well with Frostodon because that will hurt us. So Valduck, Keeper of the Flame, being 2 in a red, human shaman, an uncommon legendary creature or an uncommoner,
Yeah.
3/2. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each aura and equipment attached to Valduck, Keeper of the Flame, create a 3/1 red elemental creature token with trample and haste. Exile those tokens at the beginning of the next end step. So yeah, with Rampaging Frostodon. So people always talk about like Nombos and stuff like that. I think this is a case where you can run stuff that doesn't meld completely together all the time, and you just have to pay attention to how you play it. Because I do think Rampaging Frostodon is good. I do think your idea between if you're gonna have a bunch of equipments, having something like Valduck, you just don't necessarily be like, oh well, I'm gonna equip everything to Valduck, right after I play Rampaging Frostodon. Obviously, you're not going to do that. Or maybe the 3/1 Trample Hasters are worth the 1 point of damage you're going to take if you're maybe getting 30 power on the field and then hitting somebody in the face. So it can be worth. I think it's just tricky. You just have to kind of watch how you play it. So Torbrand sounds fun in this deck. Uh-oh. Are we running the new dwarf?
I didn't have him down, but we could talk about him. Talk about whether we'd want him in this deck.
So
I mean, I have sort of a list of cards I'm talking about, but and then I was just gonna kind of fill it out with some removal and stuff from there. But
okay. Well, just for the sake of let's think about what
let's look at
Torbrand
it.
does and then see if he fits. So, Thane of the Red Fell, it's 1 red, red, red. He's a rare dwarf noble legendary creature. If a red source you control would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage +2 instead, and he's a 2/4. So the interesting part about this is that it's on damage. So because Embercleave is giving Varchild double strike, 1 hit, the first strike damage hits, let's say, it tramples over or just hits somebody, you do get that 2 damage, but then the second hit, you also get 2 damage. Right? So you're getting 4 extra damage, which means 4 more survivors. And again, if we're doing Rampaging Frostodon, each one of those survivors is actually doing 3 damage to the person who's getting them. So that's, what did I just say? 4, right? We're getting 4 extra survivors, so that's an extra 12 damage on top of the damage you're going to get from whatever survivors you were already creating anyway. Like, you might one-shot somebody with those 3 cards. Or 4 cards, I guess. So Varchild, Embercleave, Torbrand, and Frostodon.
That's true. I mean, we can put him in.
You full connect, so it's 4. Their Varchild's a 4/4 with double strike, so that's 8 plus the 4 damage. That's 12. So if you were to make 12 survivors and they would each deal 3, that's 36 damage. Right, math teacher, former math teacher.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of damage.
Plus,
it checks out.
Plus the 12 damage that you did. So you did 48 damage. 36 damage was just from the Frostodon because the tokens entered the battlefield. The 12 damage
I think there are plenty of mono red decks you don't run Torbrand, but this one may be one where since you're focused on damage such that it might be a deck where running Torbrand is good. But I think there are plenty where you don't run Torbrand.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't think Krinko wants him. I don't think
Duretti
wants him. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even think Apolli really wants him.
Call
I mean, there are plenty of mono red decks you would run too, but I'm just saying I think there are just as many you wouldn't run as you would run them. Well, let's talk about another good creature for the deck. I think we can put Torbrand in this one though.
Yeah.
Based on but another good card for this deck is Godo.
Oh, of course.
The Bandit Warlord.
Of course, because who wouldn't want? So, are we doing potential Godo into Helm of the Host, or is this just Godo?
I mean, do we want to be degenerate and infinite?
I mean, Godo's a 6-drop, right? And it's in mono red. It's kind of a backup, right?
Sure, Godo, and we can throw Helm of the Host in here too and be terrible people.
So Godo Bandit Warlord is a human barbarian. Again, there's a lot of legendary creatures in this deck so far.
Yeah, we want legendary creatures.
Yeah, 5 and a red. It's a 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, you search your library for an equipment card, put it onto the battlefield. If you do, shuffle your library. When it attacks for the first time each turn, untap it and all samurai you control. After this phase, there is an additional combat phase. So the combination, for those of you who don't know, is Helm of the Host. When it's equipped to a creature at the beginning of combat, it creates a non-legendary token copy. So you get another Godo, and you can basically just infinite combo steps because the new one is attacking for the first time, right? Am I doing that right? So it's just constantly like, here, untap and attack again, untap and attack again. And because of the new combat phase, you get another Godo from Helm of the Host. And just keep going back and forth. So, again, I mean, like, especially in mono red decks, because, I mean, we were just talking about Cranko a little bit from the chat. I run so many combos in Cranko, but I feel like mono red, like, it's good to have a backup. Especially if, like, let's say you're against, like, Golgari decks and mono blue decks and or like even Azorius decks where like there's these more like better tuned decks than some red decks can be, and white decks, even SRAM. He hung up on me. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought you were just like,
I just don't have much to add to it. You're right.
But yeah, I just So what's Godo's purpose outside of Helm of the Host?
Like, I mean, if we aren't running the Joust where Ember Cleave is automatically in the in the command zone with, then Godo tutors 4.
Yeah. That's what I assumed is like the thought process, because obviously Joust is kind of like I don't want to say it's a joke format, but it's
not a real thing yet.
Yeah. If it catches on, then wow. I'm telling the EDA trick guys now. But yeah, if people are like, hey, no, you can't do that in my commander game, then you just turn around and be like, all right, fine, I have tutors for it, jerk. But then you really tutor out Helm of the Host and kill him with that. Should have just let me play my goddamn Ember Cleave in the command zone, and this wouldn't have had to happen.
Okay. What else do we want here?
Well, we talked some about having some equipments included, because we were talking about like Valduk and stuff like that, and we other obviously potential targets for
equipments.
Yeah, let's start talking about some equipments.
Well, I think Prowler's Helm.
Yeah.
Equipped creature can't be blocked except by walls for 2 and 2 equip. Kind of on the same unblockable vein. Of course, you have Whisper Silk Cloak.
Yep. Oh, that's not how you spell cloak.
Get that damage in there, basically.
Yeah, because obviously
he does even more damage, you know.
Exactly.
And then there's the Rogue's Passage, of course. So let's just go ahead and throw that in there for lands.
Yeah.
That's some of your unblockable equipment that lets you get in there. Loxodon Warhammer.
Really? Okay.
You don't like Loxodon?
Not that I don't like it. I'm just more surprised by it. The lifelink is obviously really nice. The damage increase is also really nice.
The main reason for the include is probably the lifelink.
Yeah.
Just because even though your survivor tokens can attack, you aren't going to be having a whole lot of blockers until Varchild leaves the battlefield once.
Yeah.
And gives you all those survivors back. So Lockstone's just a good way to regain life that you're going to lose on the crackback of being a mono red aggro deck that's going to be swinging hard.
So, are we running some sacrifice outlets naturally in order to get Varchild, or because my thought process is you have to attack with Varchild obviously to get the deck going, right? So unless we're running, let's say, equipments that give Varchild vigilance, we need, as far as like you were just saying about blockers, blocking with Varchild would be a great idea if it's gonna kill Varchild and give us all the survivors back. But if not, how do we deal with that scenario, I guess is the question.
We'll get there.
Okay.
I think another good one's Blackblade Reforged.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with the Blackblade.
I think anytime you're trying to do like a Voltron deck, Blackblade Reforged is just good because you're gonna get lands. No matter what kind of deck you're trying to build or what color you're trying to build or whatever, like as the game goes on, this card only gets better. Sword of the Animist, is that in there for the early ramp?
Yeah, it was definitely a card that was in consideration.
Didn't make the cut.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's fine. Inquisitor's Flail though.
Yeah. I don't know if I spelled it right. So, oh, okay, this is not the flail that I thought it was. Crap. What is the flail that I thought? So this is basically double damage. It's a uncommon equipment, cost 2. If the equipped creature would deal combat damage, it deals double that damage. Instead, if another creature would deal combat damage to the equipped creature, it deals double that damage to the equipped creature instead, and it equips for 2. So it's really good with Embercleave because it's kind of like quadruple strike because you're doubling the damage, not giving it obviously a keyword again because keywords don't stack, right? But in this scenario, it'll essentially be like it'll amount to the same amount of damage. And then again, like with Torbrand and stuff like that, or just the Luxon on Warhammer, giving the +3 bonus, it's just gonna really like amp up. Yes, I was thinking of Conqueror's Flail because I'm a little bit of a control freak. So the reason why I thought about Conqueror's Flail, just so that everybody knows, is that when it's equipped to a creature, people can't cast spells during your turn. And that, to me, like, with any kind of an aggressive deck, I think that that's super important, that kind of effect. Grand Abolisher is one of my favorite cards in white, because if I don't have access to blue, where I might not have counter spells or anything like that, I just want to be able to tell people, like, no, this is my turn, you go away. Same thing with, like, Dramoka. And there's the, what is it, Dawson of the Falling Leaf, I think? Everybody can only play on their turn kind of thing?
Yeah.
Something like that. How does Torbrand interact with damage doublers? The 2 damage is doubled, right? It's 4. I believe. But, alright, so what is the next card on your list?
Onaginata.
Wow, spell that one.
O-Naginata.
Nope, that didn't work. Sorry, say that again. You broke up.
O-hyphen.
Yep.
Naginata.
I don't even know what this thing is. Uncommon equipment, it costs 1. It can be attached only to a creature with power, with 3 or more power. Varchild's 3.
Guess what Varchild has?
Yeah, the synergies. Equipped creature gets +3/+0 and has trample. Again, evasion, important for Varchild. We need to be able to hit and equip 2. That's cool. It's a Kamigawa card, which I wasn't playing when Kamigawa came out. Most of my Kamigawa knowledge came from like retroactive learning. So that's cool. I like this. I'm now gonna try to think of other commanders this can work with. All right.
Hammer of Nizan.
Oh yeah. Another classic from Commander products past. Rare equipment, it's a legendary artifact, costs 4. Whenever it or another equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach that equipment to target creature you control. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has indestructible, and it has the equip cost of 4. So obviously very good for Varchild. Except for, of course, like needing Varchild to die to get the guys back. But again, if we're running, what do you call it? Sack outlets, or if we just have other creatures and we can just attach Hammer over when they enter the battlefield, that way Varchild can die.
Yeah.
Actually, hold on 1 second. I just want to check the wording. Leaves the battlefield. Okay. Varchild leaves the battlefield. I had to double check because I was like, shit, if it dies, then that doesn't work well with the command zone. But leaves the battlefield does. Okay. Sorry. We can continue.
Sword of Feast and Famine.
Okay. How many swords do you have?
I have Sword of Feast and Famine, Sword of Fire and Ice, and Sword of War and Peace.
So the OG good ones, essentially?
Yeah, the 3 best ones, in my opinion.
Yeah. Did you consider, I think it's this one, I just want to make sure. Yeah, did you consider Sword of Sinew and Steel, which is the one that hits a Planeswalker and an artifact?
I didn't, but if you really want to throw it in here, we can.
Not that Red Hat like wants for artifact removal, but I think I like the idea of Planeswalker management with like Varchild, because again, I'm gonna bring up Varchild. For Varchild to work, we need to hit the player. If somebody is running a lot of Planeswalker management then detracts from our strategy of trying to make survivors, because hitting the Planeswalker is not going to trigger to give us the survivors. So with Sword of Sinew and Steel, one, a little bit of extra protection. I'm not super worried about red, minus like a Blasphemous Act. Black is a removal spell, so kind of cuts off a color from its removal. But then you have the ability to then target the Planeswalkers while still hitting somebody to get the survivors. So I just like the dual purpose, I guess. And like Planeswalker removal, you know?
Yeah.
You got to manage them Planeswalkers.
I guess that's fine.
How many spaces did you have? Like, did you have slots in your deck, or did you have more cards than you had spots and we need to whittle it down?
Probably some of that.
The second one.
Probably the second one. That's usually how I build decks. So when I was
Yeah.
looking at this was no but I'm kind of hitting like some of the ones I think are the best ones.
Yeah.
So going through, so hopefully that'll help too. And the fact that we might like take the best ones and then, chill out from there.
How do you? Oh, never mind. I was about to say, how did you feel about Tiana, but she's Boros.
Yeah, she's Boros.
Yeah, that would have been good though. Do you have
so another card?
Go ahead.
I wanted to include on the Vigilance, like you were talking about the Vigilance, is a card called Angel's Trumpet.
Okay.
Do you know what Angel's Trumpet does?
I do now. It is an uncommon artifact. It costs 3. Attacking does not cause creatures to tap, which I'm guessing was just keyworded to creatures you control at Vigilance. At the end of each player's turn, tap all untapped creatures he or she controls that did not attack. Angel's Trumpet deals 1 damage to that player for each creature tapped this way. Interesting.
So essentially, it keeps Varchild from tapping, and it forces all the survivors that it makes to attack, or you're going to take a damage for each one that doesn't.
Yeah. And since, again, the survivors cannot attack you, you basically are creating that forced chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like it.
Which we want.
The only thing I kind of wish was that it was the creature dealt the damage as opposed to Angel's Trumpet dealing damage, because that would then work with Torbrand.
Yeah.
Because now, like, Torbrand's not gonna... But again, like, that's just getting picky, I guess. Not a big deal.
Okay. Another card is Gratuitous Violence.
Oh, okay.
It's if a creature you control would deal damage to a creature player, it deals double that damage to creature player instead.
Yep. Again, damage doublers, just trying to belt out as many.
Yeah, but Gratuitous Violence is definitely the best, because if you're playing, like, I didn't include Furnace of Wrath or what's Dictate? The other one? The Dictate of Twin Gods, because then you run into the thing where also the damage against you is doubled, whereas Gratuitous Violence only doubles the damage that you're dealing.
Yeah, you control is very important.
Yeah. So I didn't include the other two because then you run into just risking a little bit much.
Oh, New Dark Cloud in the chat makes a very good point. Even if Angel's Trumpet did say that the creature dealt the damage, it wouldn't work anyway with Torbrand because Torbrand specifically states creatures you control. Or sources, I'm sorry. Sources you control, not creatures. That's a good point. You're right. But if we can make Angel's Trumpet red, now we're... No, I'm just kidding. That's too much. We didn't really talk too much in the sense of, just to make kind of like a little bit of a swerve, we haven't talked too much about ramp. So is the ramp package pretty like standard for red deck? It's outside of, obviously, Dockside Extortionist.
We can start talking about, Burnished Heart.
Yeah. I just,
Bubble.
Is there anything, I guess, that sticks out? Again, outside of the Dockside Extortionist, which is really, it sticks out more because it's a new card, not because it specifically synergizes here. Or is everything, like I said, is it pretty much like, Soul Ring, Burnished Heart, like you said?
I'm thinking about Treasure Nabber for the deck.
Okay.
Which is whenever an opponent taps an artifact for mana, gain control of that artifact until the end of your next turn.
Yeah. So, John played this in his Jeskai deck in Vegas, and it's interesting because you're sharing it. You're sharing the card essentially, right? So, like, I had a Soul Ring when I was playing Kadena, except I think I put Rayami as the commander just to see how Rayami felt. And the decks were so focused, by the way. Don't do that. If you have any of the precons and you're playing them as precons, don't. Elsha is fine, I think, to swap out. Actually, I think the Sultai one was the only one where, like, just don't do that. Chainer and Greven were fine, I think, considering Danny beat my face in with Greven one time. The Naya decks were all fine, and I don't like the wall, but Elsha seemed fine in control of the Jeskai one. So, yeah, just don't do it with the Sultan ones, because the other two commanders don't do anything with morphs. Anyway, so, like, I had a Soul Ring, and we were, like, the least powerful decks at the table, and it got to the point where we were like, here, I'm going to tap the Soul Ring to get my value out of it, and you can borrow it. Don't do anything stupid like, KCI this thing or something. But yeah, so you're basically just borrowing people's mana rocks.
Yeah. I think Gauntlet might also is just kind of an include.
Yeah, okay. This is the red specific one? Yeah, red creatures get +1/+1.
Yeah.
No, like, Cage Stun, or would you want to do snow lands for, like, the extra planar lands, or no?
I didn't do that here, because Gauntlet only costs 4, and extra planar costs, more.
I thought extra planar is 2.
It's 3, but then you have to run Snow Mountains, and
yeah. It does increase the cost of the deck by a lot. I mean, not mountains. If we were running like Snow Islands, then yes.
Snow Mountains and Snow Islands are too much expensive. Yes, islands are more expensive, but mountains are the next most expensive.
Really interesting. What?
Yes, sir.
Oh, is it like a modern deck or something that runs Snow Mountains? Or like, is it snow stuff?
I just know that they're the next most expensive.
What the Eve? All right, well.
So then we talk about keep talking about some ramp and some draw options,
So what do you have for draw?
Vance's Blasting Cannons.
Okay. So you're leaning into some of that Red's new version of card advantage where you exile it.
Outpost Siege.
Yeah. So Vancing Blasting Cannon, just so people in podcast world know what we're talking about, is a legendary enchantment from Ixalan. It's a rare. It's costs 3 and a red. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. If it's a non-land card, you may cast that card this turn. Whenever you cast your third spell in turn, you can transform it, which I don't think, for the sake of this deck, I don't think that matters, right? We're not probably doing that.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, we aren't in for transforming it.
Yeah.
We want to keep it where it is and just keep using it.
Yeah. Hey, Sammy. We're basically brewing a deck with the idea of Embercleave being in mind. The new legendary artifact equipment from Throne of Eldraine, with the commander being Varchild, because it just good synergy. It's a joke for EDH Rec. We created, quote unquote, a format called Joust, where you, instead of having a signature spell like Oathbreaker, you have a signature equipment that can only go on your commander, which has to be a knight, etc., etc. So, I don't know. Advances I'm not particularly keen on because it cuts you off from lands, and it's limited to this turn where some of the other ones aren't. I think.
It does, but I still likes it.
Yeah, I mean you're also. Let's look at Outpost Siege. I think you're limited in these effects because it is still kind of new. I mean, Outpost Siege is what 2 years old now. Oh no,
Other than that, it was Khan's block.
yeah, it was originally Khan's block when
Yeah.
I think we first started seeing this. Um, so and actually, you can even do dragons in the right situation, I guess.
Yep.
I like that. Cons being the one where at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library until end of turn you may play that card. So that's the big difference between this and Vance's Blasting Cannons is that Vance's Blasting Cannons 1 says it only matters if it's a non-land card, your lands are just gone. And Vance's says cast. You don't obviously cast your lands, and again it had the non-land restriction. This is just exile the card, you may play it. You do play lands, so that's good. And then dragons is whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, you can deal 1 damage to target creature or player. So if you do suddenly have your survivors and like you want to blast from this act and you have like 50 survivors, you can potentially kill somebody. Something crazy.
I also had Chandra Flamecaller in here.
Yeah.
Discard all cards in your hand and draw that many cards +1.
Yeah. The wheel effect.
I think Dark already mentioned that. But
well, he said War Chandra, which there wasn't there like more than one War Chandra?
is he talking about the one that puts the burning thing on him?
No.
He could be.
No, that's not War. Which Chandra are we
She's saying
talking about?
Fire Artisan.
Okay. Okay, so this is the one. It costs 2 red. It's a rare. Whenever one or more loyalty counters are removed from Chandra, she deals that much damage to target opponent or planeswalker. Oh, her +1 is exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. That's why New Dark's going after that one.
Yeah, we could put that one in too.
Yeah. And then the -7 is kind of like a super version of that. Exile the top 7 cards of your library, and you may play them this turn. And
I like the idea of playing with Sir Kara as well, just because Sir Kara is a human knight, so and gives us the same effect.
Yeah.
So I already had her on my list, but I didn't have Fire Artisan.
Okay. Sakara the Bold being the uncommon human knight, 3 red. Whenever she or an instant or sorcery spell you control deals damage to a player, exile the top card of your library and you may play the card this turn. And she's a pinger for 1 damage to any target, and she's a 3/3.
And I also had the Immortal Sun.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a 6
Yeah,
mana.
a lot of these red decks and mono red decks had been running, Staff of Nin.
Mm-hmm.
At the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card, and it's 6 mana. Well, the Immortal Sun is also 6 mana. It turns off Planeswalker's loyalty abilities, which is sort of a nombo with our Chandras if we have them.
Yeah.
But I think the Chandra, I only had one Chandra, so I had one Planeswalker in the whole deck, I'm pretty sure, was just Chandra, the Chandra Ablaze. So even if we have 2, I don't feel like that's a major loss. Yeah. If this happens to be out, I think we're fine because we're mainly using those to draw cards and we're drawing cards with this. And then it makes your spells cost less and buffs your commander.
Yeah. Or your survivors if you get them all.
And the survivors if you get them all. Yep. So I kind of like this as an include as sort of draw, sort of that limiting Planeswalkers, because Planeswalkers is one thing that this deck would have a hard time dealing with.
Yep.
And then cost reduction on your spells and buffing your creatures. I just think it works well. It's not been any of the Varchild list I looked at, but I like it and I'd like to try it. So
yeah, and I think we talked before about having the potential of nombos. It's just a matter of playing them, smartly. You should be able to pilot your deck in a way of you're not going to screw yourself over. So don't play your Chandra on turn, let's say 5, and then play the Immortal Sun turn 6. That wouldn't make any sense, unless of course like it's a break class in case of emergency. So if you're against a Super Friends deck, the Immortal Sun.
Excuse me.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. Just got a little chip somehow.
But if you are playing against a Super Friends deck, then the Immortal Sun's obviously going to turn the tide, because a lot of times Super Friends decks tend to just outvalue people very quickly. So this will be your way of like, hey, shut it down, and then yeah, you lose your Chandra, quote unquote. But I mean, even the Chandra we were just talking about, the Fire Artisan, the passive still works. So if somebody kills your Chandra, like you still get to point that damage a little bit. So it's not 100% a non-bow, but it's obviously not, the most finely tuned thing. Oh god, you gave me a cough.
I mean, New Dark keeps on talking about Experimental Frenzy. I didn't have that one. At least so far, when I've tried playing with Experimental Frenzy, I haven't liked it.
So I know this card was big in standard for like a little bit, or limited. I can't remember which one. It's a rare enchantment. It costs 300 red. It's from one of the war sets. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play the top card of your library. You can't play cards from your hand, and for 300 red, you can destroy it. So basically, it turns you into like the ultimate top decking deck, I guess. I feel like in Commander, you need a little bit more setup for something like this. Like I could see this being run in like a Malek deck, Malek, something like whatever, however you say them. For this, I kind of do agree with you, unless you find yourself constantly not drawing enough, where you are getting to the point where you have to, like, you have no hand all the time, or if like you were running like a hand stacks deck where everybody like a Rakdos hand stacks deck. That's the only time I really like stuff like this. I don't like I'm a graveyard player, so I like having an extended hand. So even if it is off the top of the library, that's great. But when you're trading one for another and the other one is more limited, because you may play the top card of your library. So what if it's a land? You play one land, and what if the next one's a land? All right, that's all you can do minus activated abilities. I don't like stuff with that kind of a downside.
See, and that's where I was on it too.
Yeah. There you go. It was good in standard.
I also put some, let's say, not nice cards in here.
Well, you're not nice, so I am not shocked.
Blood Moon was in my version. Price of Glory is in my version, and Ruination.
All right. Listen here, you. So if your non-basic lands are mountains, they don't turn into basic lands, right? So Blood Moon doesn't stop Ruination, right?
Blood Moon doesn't stop Ruination. No, it doesn't. So you can make them mountains and then Ruination them later.
Yeah.
If you really want to.
You're rude.
But yes, Blood Moon for making them all mountains, Ruination for throwing all non-basic lands. Get those greedy players who aren't playing enough basic lands in their deck. And then Price of Glory, which is kind of like insurance against counterspell, counter magic, instant speed shenanigans, because whenever a player taps a land for mana during another player's turn, destroy that land. So it's just trying to keep people honest and keeping them playing near their own turn. We're playing mono red here. We're at some disadvantages, and we don't want to be at more disadvantages. So
yeah, your best friend, Magical Hacker, always used to talk about stuff like Ruination in the light of like it tends to obviously hurt more multicolored decks than monocolored decks, and that's why he likes those kind of effects. Which, again, when you're playing monocolor, I understand it. I don't think they're like as necessary for like. I don't think decks should just run barely any non-basics. So that's just my opinion. But I see it in this deck. Like I see why we're doing it in this deck.
Yeah, I'm not saying these should go in every mono red deck, but
yeah. Are you playing War's Toll?
War's Toll? I don't think so, because that one is really annoying on MTGO. If that's the card I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Isn't that the one that taps all the lands?
Yeah. So you have to respond, and then every time you respond, it responds.
That's I would include it in a paper version of this deck.
Yeah.
I would not include it in an MTGO version, because this is horrible on MTGO.
Yep, because you can't even hold control to maintain priority, because it has to respond. Mm-hmm. Like isn't it like a state-based effect or something? I don't know. I don't remember how it's worded or something. But
so Sammy, if I was playing this deck in paper, I would definitely put a slot. If you're playing on Magic Online, the resolving out on Magic Online is so bad. It's kind of like Throwing Stone.
Yeah.
I just won't play it on Magic Online because resolving is terrible. Which BT dubs, resolving Throwing Stone in paper is pretty bad too, but it's really bad on Magic Online.
Thrilling Stone, worst card in all of Magic the Gathering.
In terms of resolving, it is one of the worst cards in Magic the Gathering in terms of resolution. Another card that's just good for monocolored decks, and I would almost advocate for playing it in most mono-covered decks, particularly mono red and mono white, though, is Endless Atlas.
Okay.
Which is the 2-drop, and then 2 tap, draw a card, activate this ability only if you control 3 or more lands with the same name. So most of your monocolored decks is good in. I mean, mono blue has plenty of other draw. Mono green can sort of get away with it. But I think like mono black clearly can draw plenty of cards too. So I'd say definitely mono white and mono red should always be playing this card. I'd say mono green sometimes yes, sometimes no. Blue and black don't need it as much, but
I think green.
You could play it without it being a bad idea.
Yeah, I think green depends on how your deck is built. Yeah. I think green's gotten to the point where it does draw a decent amount of cards if you're in line with the normal green stuff. Like green's draw is very green-ish. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Whereas black is like black's. I mean, black's draw is black-ish too, but black's draw is literally just if you have life, you can draw cards, and you have to have life in order to be playing the game. So. And then blue is just dumb. When it comes to card draw.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
When it comes to other things too, but definitely card draw.
Well, yes, counter spells as well. Those are
yeah.
God damn it, Swan Song.
It got me. It got me in that game on Friday.
It got you twice.
Yeah. Twice it got me. It got me in both games.
Yeah.
Another card I like is Silent Arbiter. You aren't frequently going to be wanting to attack with more than.
Yep.
And some of your other cards, like it combos really well with Angel's Trumpet.
That's true.
Because if you're preventing them from attacking with all those creatures you've given them, then they're also taking damage for all those creatures you've given them.
Doesn't this kind of non-bow with War's Toll, or does... Oh, never mind. You said you did not want to play War's Toll. Never mind.
No.
Yeah, I can see that then.
I mean, I'm kind of saying it combos really well with Angel's Trumpet. Yeah. It also protects you if you're... Because you are essentially a Voltron, I'm going to kill you deck. Yeah. In the end, Varchild is just as likely to kill someone. It's just if Varchild dies, you get all those tokens. Now, that could be pretty bad to have a Silent Arbiter in that situation, but I don't know. So you could go back and forth on this card, whether you want to include it or not, but I think that it has some good combo potential.
I think even if Varchild dies and you get all the survivors, it's still fine. Because let's say you can't cast Varchild for a little while, you can, because it's in a kind of an equipment deck, you just suit up one of the survivors and attack.
Yeah.
Now with Angel's Trumpet, obviously, well, Angel's Trumpet, wasn't that just opponents or no?
No, it's everyone.
Okay.
It is symmetric.
Because then it would have been really good. Yeah, then it would have been really good. In this situation, it could be a little bit rough if that happens. But again, like red has ways of getting rid of artifacts. So if you have to turn your own removal spell on your own card to live, so be it. Because again, you are going to have like a million chump blockers and you just equipped up one survivor.
Of ways to remove artifacts. Vandal Blast, everyone.
All right. Well, I'm not even going to bring that one up. We should know what that does. Did you consider recursion for stuff? Did you consider recursion for like the equipments and stuff?
There's not a lot in red. I mean, I had Buried Ruin in the mana base.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Duretti.
I guess we could put Duretti in, but then that's even more.
Yeah, I know. We're going more toward. Yeah. Trading Post is.
Yeah, we could put Trading Post in. Trading Post is pretty good.
Yeah. Trading Post being the druid of Magic the Gathering artifact decks. I don't know if you get that joke. You're not a D&D guy. So the joke is that druids are the jack of all trades and master of none. So like they can do damage, they can cast spells, they can heal, they can etc. But they're never like the best in any of these things.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like Trading Post. It does a lot of different stuff. but it's not the best of those different categories. Like, it's not the best recursion spell for artifacts. It's not the best way to gain life. It's not the best way to make tokens. It's not the best way to draw cards.
Yeah.
I do also like, though, for stuff like if somebody, because Hammer of Nazahan's indestructible, right? People are going to try what?
Nizan.
What did I say?
I think it's Nazahan. You said Nazahan.
Why did I say Nazahan? Anyway, because people are going to try to exile stuff like that. I do like the ability to sacrifice an artifact to get value, especially if you have recursion, which this does, because then you just get it back. You know, that's one of my favorite things is I'm going to go exile this thing. Well, I'm going to sacrifice it because I don't want you to exile that thing. And then I'm going to get it back. It's going to be more annoying than ever. All right, so we are coming up on our hour.
All right, so
let's
Conjurer's
start.
Closet.
Yep. Oh, okay. I see what you're doing. You're obnoxious for one, but clever as well.
Cute. Because Conjurer's Closet, you're just gonna flicker Varchild. So
yep.
Yes, you'll have to keep paying for the equips, which is kind of annoying, but you do get all those tokens back.
Yeah.
So you get all them tokens. So, and then Voyager Staff kind of does the same thing, but it's a one-off. It's for 1 and then 2. Sacrifice it, remove target creature from the game, return that creature to play under its owner's control at end of turn.
The only thing about cards like this for Magic Online is make sure Varchild's not going to the command zone instead of exile.
Oh dear God, yes, make sure that's happening.
And then once Varchild is back, make sure it then is going to the command zone instead of exile. That way you do not permanently exile.
Lightning Greaves for our equipment. I'm not seeing it, but we definitely want a Lightning Greaves.
Do we want Lightning Greaves or Swiftfoot Boots?
Given that, actually, yeah, I guess we probably want Swiftfoot Boots more.
Yeah,
because we do want to be equipped through.
Yep, because we need to be able to target, obviously, with Conjurer's Closet, and with this, obviously, to equip more things onto it, because you don't want to have to take boots off, try to equip it up, and then, oh, by the way, as you go to equip the boots, I kill it, and you wasted all your mana. Okay. Do you have any, like, specific closers outside of, obviously, like, weird? Hello? I lost Phyrexian's audio. Hold on 1 second. Let me try to get him back. Hey. Okay.
All right. I said burn at the stake.
Okay.
Because you get all your survivors back, and then you play burn at the stake, and it does damage to target creature player equal to 3 times the number of creatures tapped this way. So it's a good way to just all of a sudden, wham! The most scary player is out of the game, or your last opponent is out of the game, whichever. Yeah.
You figure you're probably maybe ended one person, right? With the getting the survivors, like dealing all that damage and everything. That is also one thing to be aware of with a Varchild deck, is you don't want to actually straight commander damage somebody out without getting your survivors back.
Tokens first. Yeah. You definitely want to get your survivors.
Yeah. You'd hate to do all that work, get, 20 survivors, and then, oh, wait, nope. I lost it because of that 21.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think with some of the doubling damage and stuff, that might actually happen sometimes. Like, you might actually, like, one-shot somebody. Oh, I guess you could, you don't want to respond after the first damage, because then you don't get the second damage. It's hard. Mm-hmm. There might be situations where it's like, oh, I'm never going to get all these survivors because I just can't respond to somebody dying.
Yeah.
All right. Any other big finishers? Like, obviously, Burn at the Stake is a big finisher. Ah, okay. One of my favorite cards.
Especially, I mean, it's even better with Torbrand, too.
Yeah. Because now
it's 3 damage.
Yeah, sacrifice a goblin, or I'm sorry, sacrifice a creature, the goblin bombardment, and you lightning bolt somebody. Free
Yeah,
lightning bolts for everybody. Cost one creature.
that is not bad at all.
Yeah.
How many cards are we at right now?
I don't know. A whole bunch. You're supposed to keep track. It's your list. How
You're
many
the
other
one typing all these in, right?
No, I'm putting them up on the screen, buddy. How
Oh,
many other
oops.
instant sorcery cards are in the deck? Um, I don't know. We haven't really gone over too many of those, just in general. I'm sure there's
Yeah,
probably, I mean, Vandal Blast. I think that was the only one I remember us talking about. I'm assuming like Chaos Warp's in there too.
yeah.
Blasphemous
Chaos Warp
Act.
would be in there for good removal. Blasphemous Act would be in there for removal. Chandra's Ignition,
hmm
same thing, removal.
Um,
Um,
Ruination. We did talk about that one.
mhm. We talked about Ruination.
So it's mostly like
Uh,
big removal stuff.
yeah, I think you're playing a lot of permanents here.
Yeah. Do you think it's worth it to have some means? And I can only think of two ways to do this in this color. Oh no, I guess there's some colorless ways, but like Vidalcan Orrery type stuff. That way we can play it flash speed. That way we can at least threaten mana. Well, not really, because how often are you going to have anything for the threat?
No, I don't. But
Yeah, I don't know. I love being able to leave mana up or to have just
I had Wheel of Fortune on my list too for draw.
okay.
There's a lot of times where you'll dump your whole hand out and then you can just wheel into a new hand.
How many wheels do you have outside of just Wheel of Fortune?
I just put Wheel of Fortune in there. I didn't put like Reforge or any of the other ones.
Oh, was thinking like Reverberate and Reiterate. Thinking in terms of possibly running copy spells that double finishers and damage spells.
Yeah.
How does that work with like Burn at the Stake? Is the tap part of putting it on the stack? Because then you can copy it, or is it part of the resolution?
It's part of it. It's an additional cost to cast. You tap any number.
Okay, so by
So
the
you
time,
could.
yeah, by the time it hits the stack, that is a property of the spell.
Yes.
Interesting. That's
You could
possible.
copy it.
The only thing about something like that, though, is that you start going into more of a spell slingery style thinking, and you don't want to split your focus too much. I personally, that's me. I tend to try to be as focused as possible on like what is my deck trying to do. Um,
Mhm.
Maybe like the buyback one. That way you can reuse it, because that way if you want to like Chaos Warp, you know, again, or Vandal Blast, and you only want to pay the one, but you want to get two things or something like that. Uh, Maybe something like that, but I don't want to go. Me personally, I would not go too deep into those. And then I think that was really the only big finisher that we had, right? For that was spell related.
Yeah.
So we are over our hour.
Right.
Obviously, we didn't go through a whole deck's worth. So why don't we mull this over a little bit, and then we will finalize the list, and we can present it next week. Just like the list, like we don't have to
Yeah.
go over everything. If there's anything like super special or like kind of a sweet synergy that we come up with, we can talk about that at the beginning of next week. And
Yeah.
we'll do it like that. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
All right. Well, then we will work on this a little bit throughout the rest of this week. I do want to let everybody know that the next Commander Online episode is going to be on the 19th. I'm going to probably say that every day until the 19th. That is going to be at 19th is a Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/Praetor Magic. We are going to have myself, Danny, John, and Patrick for that episode. I think I know what I'm playing if we don't change the theme, but I don't want to say anything yet. I'll say something as we get closer. I did on Twitter, I came up with the idea that I am going to kind of challenge myself. I'm going to post about this on Twitter later, but basically a couple people have suggested commanders at me because I made a joke that I can turn anything into a reanimator deck. So people started suggesting things that are obviously not based in reanimator. I'm going to pick
They
like
took you seriously?
Yeah, they
big
took me
mistake.
seriously. I'm gonna pick like my 4 favorites, make a Twitter poll out of it, and then let people vote on what the commander is, and that'll probably be the one I run at the end of the season. Kind of like as a fan request thing. I'll see if maybe I can get some of the other guys to do something similar to where like even if it's just pick a commander that I'll like, you know, that way we can kind of have like fan submitted stuff. Obviously, we want you to check out our sponsors over at Ink Gaming via the affiliate link that'll be down below the podcast or the video or the stream if you're watching with us live. And make sure you're using your 10% off coupon code of Praetor10. Follow us on youtube.com, facebook.com, twitter.com, instagram.com/Praetor Magic, and join us on the Discord down below. If you are a Twitch subscriber or a Patreon, make sure your Patreon or Twitch account is linked with your Discord account, because that gets you into the Phyrexian arena, which is where you guys get sneak peeks at decks that we're going to brew, my articles for EDH Rec, talk to us about any kind of thing that maybe we don't always publicize. You guys can ask us those kind of questions about like the content that we're coming out with. So even topics for the next Reflections of the Council. Yay!
Yeah.
And of course, that's the only way you can talk to Phyrexian outside of chatting with him during Reflections of the Council, because he doesn't know what a social media is.
I know what it is. I just have a very low opinion of it.
All right, guys, that's all we have for you next time. Make sure you join us next Monday so that we can present this list. And that's all we got. Phyrexian, you got any last words?
Nope.
No final words from the hidden. So,
yeah, my final words are hidden. Find them.
That doesn't make any sense. Oh, last thing is not this week or next week.
Somebody will find them.
The week after, I think we're starting season 7 for 30H, and I am going to start getting back into 30H streams. It'll be once a week. It'll be either Wednesday or Thursday, mostly on Thursdays because that's when Phyrexian's available, but every once in a while I'm going to switch it up to a Wednesday because that's when John's available and he wanted to pitch in as well, and it'll give Phyrexian, you know, time off to come up with even worse decks. And by worse, I mean mean, not worse as in like bad. So, yep, keep an eye out for that. I'm going to post when the sign-up sheet's going to be ready again, and like I said, the first few are going to be Thursdays so that Phyrexian and I can get back into it together because that's what we were doing for a while. And yeah, that's all we got for you for Reflections. See y'all next Monday. Peace.